The relentless rain against the window was the only sound in the penthouse. William Vance stared at the prescription bottle in his hand, the white capsules inside like tiny promises of oblivion. The wheelchair by the grand piano was a monument to a life that had screeched to a halt. He didn't bother looking up when the front door shuddered on its hinges, then flew open with a crash. If it was another well-meaning colleague sent by the board, or a pitying relative, he didn't care. He tipped the bottle, a few pills spilling into his palm. A hand clamped over his, forceful and warm. The pills scattered across the polished oak floor like startled insects. William finally looked up, and his breath hitched. Leaning over him, rain beating on his black overcoat, was Lucas Thorne, his rival, the thorn in his side since their first day at Phillips Academy. The man who'd bested him for valedictorian, outmaneuvered him on their first major merger, whose very presence had always been a challenge William relished. Now it was just salt in the wound. Before William could muster a cutting remark, Lucas's fingers were at his jaw, prying his mouth open. William tried to twist away, a flash of humiliation burning through the numbness. He slapped Lucas's hand aside with a sharp crack. "Get your hands off me, Thorne. What the hell are you doing here?" Lucas didn't react to the hostility. He just let out a breath, his shoulders dropping fractionally. "You hadn't taken any. Good." His voice was low, rougher than William remembered. "Where's the rest of it?" William stayed silent, clenching his jaw. Lucas gave a short, humorless laugh and strode past him, his boots loud on the floor. Panic, a feeling he thought he'd lost, spiked in William's chest. He tried to wheel himself forward, but two large men in dark suits materialized from the hallway, gently but firmly holding the chair in place. "Make sure Mr. Vance stays comfortable," Lucas called over his shoulder, disappearing into the master bedroom. Minutes later, he returned, a small pharmacy's worth of bottles clutched in one hand. Without ceremony, he dumped them all into a chrome kitchen trash can. William watched, a cold fury settling in his stomach. Lucas then knelt in front of the wheelchair, his gaze level with William's. Up close, William could see dark circles under his eyes, a new intensity in the steel blue irises. The man looked different, unsettled. "You won't need those anymore," Lucas stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I guarantee you'll sleep just fine from now on." A wary suspicion coiled in William's gut. He'd heard the rumors about Lucas's preferences, the discreet offers from associates that were always declined. Was this some twisted, long-game predation? "Even with these legs, I'm not some easy mark, Thorne. I'll never." He was cut off as Lucas smoothly bent and lifted him from the chair as if he weighed nothing. The world tilted. William's protests were ignored as Lucas carried him through the foyer, the bodyguards following with the folded wheelchair. The cold, wet air of the New York evening hit his face, a shocking reminder of the outside world he'd walled himself away from. Struggling was futile. "Put me down. You can't just kidnap me. Keep fighting, Will, and I'll turn you over my knee right here on Fifth Avenue," Lucas said, his voice casual as he adjusted his grip. "Though I suppose I should ask, would you even feel it? I'm paralyzed, not comatose, you idiot. Of course I'd feel it. Good to know. Then cooperate." Shoved into the back of a sleek town car, William stared silently out the window as the city lights blurred past. The route became familiar, heading east, towards the medical district. His heart began to pound against his ribs. "Stop the car. Lucas, I'm not going to the hospital. Turn around." Lucas looked up from the tablet on his knees. "We're going." "Why?" The word burst out, sharp with old bitterness. "You threw a party when you heard about the accident. An entire goddamn champagne tower at the Knickerbocker. I saw the pictures. So what is this? A new form of humiliation? Dragging the cripple out for a laugh?" Lucas winced, running a hand through his damp hair. He looked suddenly, uncharacteristically unsure. I wasn't celebrating." He blew out a frustrated breath. "Look, This is gonna sound insane, but you need to hear it. I have memories of a future. A few years from now, you and I are together, married. The air in the car went still. Even the driver seemed to hold his breath. William could only stare, his mind blank for a full 3 seconds. Then a hot, incredulous laugh escaped him. You're out of your mind. Get me out of this car. Lucas plowed on, undeterred. And in that future, you're very much the one who enjoys being taken care of. That did it. The sheer, audacious absurdity of it shattered William's stunned silence. He couldn't stand, but his arm worked just fine. The slap echoed in the quiet luxury of the vehicle, his palm connecting with Lucas's cheek with a stinging crack. Lucas's head snapped to the side. Slowly, he turned back, working his jaw. A faint, red mark bloomed on his skin. Instead of anger, a slow, approving smile touched his lips. Good. Keep that fire. You'll need it for physical therapy. This was beyond strange. The Lucas Thorne he knew would have already escalated this into a full-blown confrontation. This calm, almost fond acceptance was terrifying. William looked at his own tingling hand, a strange disconnect settling over him. You're insane. And I'm not gay. Even if I were, it would never be you. And I would never be the less dominant one. Lucas just shrugged, as if the argument was a minor nuisance. We'll see. The car slid into the hospital garage. When William balked at getting out, Lucas leaned in, his breath warm against William's ear. His voice dropped to an intimate murmur. Either you walk in with some dignity, or I carry you in. And if I have to carry you, I'm gonna kiss you right here in this parking garage to prove a point. Your choice. A shudder of pure, undiluted revulsion went through William. Yet, beneath the disgust, a thread of terrified curiosity pulled taut. This bizarre confidence, this absolute certainty, it was the only explanation for such a radical personality shift. Fine, but stay the hell away from me. The examination yielded no new hope. The neurologist used the same careful, apologetic phrases. Significant progress possible with dedicated rehab, timeline uncertain. Full mobility not guaranteed. William had heard it all before. It was the soundtrack to his parents' gradual withdrawal. Their eventual decision to install his feckless half-brother, Jason, as interim CEO and quietly move William to the penthouse to be forgotten. He watched Lucas absorb the news. The man's face, usually an impenetrable mask of boardroom composure, seemed to pale. His knuckles whitened where they gripped the arm of his chair. On the ride back, William couldn't resist. So, you're a time traveler, but you didn't see this coming? Or did your future self just forget to mention I'd be a cripple? Lucas was staring out the window, his reflection grim. I knew. I just hate seeing it. The flicker in his eyes, a brief loss of control, was unmistakable. He was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. William let it go, exhaustion seeping in. But he soon realized the car wasn't heading back to his empty penthouse. They were crossing into the West Village, pulling up to a restored brownstone with ivy climbing its facade. Lucas's home. I'm not staying here. Take me home. Your home is where you'll be alone with your thoughts and a fresh bottle of pills. Not happening. You have 2 options. I move into your place with a security team or you stay here. Choose. The takeover was absolute. Lucas had already had William's belongings brought over. A bedroom on the ground floor had been modified, a state-of-the-art home therapy room installed off the kitchen. Books on spinal rehabilitation and neurology were stacked on the reclaimed wood coffee table, pages dog-eared, margins filled with notes in Lucas's sharp handwriting. This is where you'll work, Lucas announced, pushing William's chair into the bright, sunlit therapy room. I'll be here when I can. When I'm not, someone else will be. Don't try to skip it. And if I refuse? Lucas leaned down, bracing his hands on the wheelchair's arms, caging William in. Then I'll kiss you. Every time you refuse. Consider it negative reinforcement. William felt heat rise to his face. You're a psychopath. You've called me that before. Just in different contexts. Lucas cooked dinner that night, seared scallops, a kale and quinoa salad, ingredients William recognized as his own favorites. He knew for a fact Lucas had once set a microwave on fire trying to make popcorn. The food was perfect. The dissonance was staggering. The first week was a battle of wills. William would feign sleep, ignore the therapists, until Lucas would simply appear, his presence a silent, immovable demand. The threat of physical affection, which Lucas seemed to view as a reward, not a punishment, was a strangely effective motivator. Pride, too, played its part. The competitive instinct, the refusal to look weak in front of Lucas Thorne, even now, drove William to push harder during his sessions than he ever had alone. Lucas worked from home often, his laptop open on the therapy room's drafting table, his attention subtly but constantly on William's form. In the evenings, he would sometimes wordlessly lift William's legs into his lap, strong fingers working at the stiff, unresponsive muscles with a practiced rhythm. The touch, clinical in intent, felt anything but. It sent confusing currents of warmth through William's veins. "Why are you doing this?" William asked one night, the fire crackling in the hearth. "Really? Even if your delusion is real, why bother? The future you saw already happened. You could just wait for it." Lucas's hands stilled for a moment. "The future I saw," he said quietly, "you were in a dark place for a long time. You pushed everyone away, including me, until it was too late. I'm not waiting this time." Winter arrived. The holidays loomed. Lucas grew hesitant, asking about family plans. William shut it down coldly. "They have their functional heir. They don't want the broken one at the table. You go. Don't hurry back on my account." On New Year's Eve, alone in the brownstone, William fell asleep on the sofa watching It's a Wonderful Life. He awoke to the sensation of being lifted, and opened his eyes to see Lucas, smelling of cold air and expensive wool, cradling him. "It's snowing," Lucas whispered, nodding toward the large windows where fat flakes swirled in the streetlight's glow. As the distant sound of cheers and countdowns from Times Square filtered in, Lucas bent his head. At the final shout of Happy New Year, his lips met William's. It was brief, softer than William expected, and when Lucas pulled back, his eyes were brighter than the city lights outside. "Happy New Year, Will." The peace was shattered a month later by Jason's unannounced visit. William, from his vantage point at the top of the stairs, listened as his half-brother's voice, wheedling and eager, floated up. "Lucas, I've admired you for so long. With William out of the picture, things could be so good for us. Our families, our companies, I could make it worth your while." William felt a cold, clean anger. Not jealousy, but a profound disdain. Before Lucas could reply, William called out, his voice slicing through the tension. "Lucas, up here. Now." Lucas was at the foot of the stairs in an instant, looking up. William met his gaze, then deliberately curled a finger. As Lucas ascended, William waited until he was close, then fisted a hand in his cashmere sweater, pulling him down into a hard, deliberate kiss. It was for show, a performance for the audience below. But the moment William tried to break it, Lucas's hand came up to cup his jaw, deepening the kiss from a statement into something consuming and real. William heard Jason's gasp, then the slam of the front door. Later, panting, shirt rumpled, Lucas showed William his phone. Messages from Jason. "Why him? He's nothing now. I could give you so much more." William deleted the contact, a grim satisfaction in the action. That night, he caught Lucas in his bathroom, holding a discarded t-shirt, a strange, tender expression on his face. The intimacy of the act, the unguarded look, chipped another piece off William's resistance. The hard, grueling work of therapy began to show. First, standing with support. Then, agonizing step by agonizing step, walking with parallel bars. The day William took 3 shaky, unaided steps across the therapy room, Lucas didn't laugh at the awkward, stilted motion. He stood perfectly still, his eyes shimmering with a victory that seemed entirely personal. "I knew you could," was all he said, his voice thick. News from the family company grew dire. Jason mismanagement was a slow-motion car crash. When the desperate call finally came from his parents, their voices laced with a fear that had nothing to do with concern for him, William was ready. He negotiated coldly, taking controlling equity in exchange for saving the firm, exiling Jason to oversee a failing overseas branch. He moved back to his penthouse, throwing himself into the monumental task of corporate salvage. Lucas gave him space, only appearing occasionally at the office with worry in his eyes and takeout from the diner William liked. "You're wasting away," he'd murmur, brushing a thumb over William's cheekbone. One such night, with the city glittering below them, Lucas finally broke. "The crisis is contained. Our crisis, however, remains. You've kissed me, used me to make your brother jealous, let me share your bed when you were too tired to argue. What's the plan here, Will? I believe I was promised a future." William set down his pen, turning to face him fully. "The game was up. You were. But you lied about the details, didn't you?" Lucas froze, the playful light in his eyes dimming. "We never got married," William stated, watching him closely. "In your memory, I died long before that, didn't I? You came back too late to stop the accident, but in time to stop the pills. So you concocted a future you wanted to make the present bearable. For both of us." The silence stretched. Lucas looked down, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "You figured it out. You're a terrible liar when it comes to this. To me, the way you'd get flustered. A married man wouldn't blush like that." William's voice softened. "How did it happen? The coming back?" Lucas let out a shaky breath. "After the funeral, I drank for a week. Walked into traffic on Park Avenue. Not the most heroic origin story." William reached out, taking Lucas's hand. It was the first time he had initiated contact. "Is heroic enough?" He paused, choosing his words. "You said we'd be together. That part doesn't have to be a lie." The hope that dawned on Lucas's face was brighter than any New Year's display. William moved back into the brownstone, or rather, Lucas permanently moved into the penthouse, citing a superior view. The first night, he appeared in the doorway of William's bedroom claiming a sleepwalking habit. William just sighed and lifted the duvet in silent invitation. Later, in the dark, with Lucas's breath warm against his shoulder, William traced the scars on his own legs, ridges of silvered skin in the moonlight. Lucas followed the touch with his lips, his kiss reverent and aching. "I wish I'd been sooner," Lucas whispered, his voice raw. "I wish you'd never had to go through any of this." William turned, his body protesting but alive with a new, thrilling ache. He kissed Lucas, deep and slow, then pulled back just enough to speak against his mouth. "If I'd never fallen, I'd still be that arrogant bastard who only saw you as a rival. I'd never have let you close enough to see this." He guided Lucas's hand, his meaning clear. "So stop regretting the past. You have me now. That's the only future that matters." Lucas's answer was not in words, but in the careful, worshipping heat of his touch, mapping a territory that was finally, irrevocably, theirs.